Right now, as you watch this, something is happening inside your brain. Not metaphorically, not as a figure of speech, physically. The neural architecture of your mind is being reshaped by an object you probably check between 80 and 150 times a day. And the most unsettling part is not that it is happening, it is that you cannot feel it happening at all. Your phone is not just a tool you use, it is an environment your brain lives inside. And like every environment a brain inhabits for long enough, it is changing the organ that inhabits it. This is not a moral argument about screen time. This is neuroscience, and what it reveals about what smartphones are doing to the human brain at the structural, chemical, and functional level is something most people have never been told in plain language. It starts with dopamine. Your brain has a reward system, a network of structures centered on a region called the nucleus accumbens that evolved over millions of years to motivate survival behaviors. When you eat, when you have sex, when you achieve something meaningful, dopamine floods this system and produces a signal of pleasure and satisfaction. This is the system that drives you to seek out things that are good for your survival and reproduction. Your phone has been engineered with extraordinary precision and enormous financial investment to hijack this system. Every notification, every new post, every like, every unexpected piece of new information triggers a small dopamine release. The keyword here is unexpected. Research by Wolfram Schultz at the University of Cambridge, work that won the Nobel Prize, showed that dopamine neurons fire most powerfully not in response to reward itself, but in response to the unpredictable possibility of reward. The brain is not addicted to the pleasure. It is addicted to the anticipation, to the not knowing, to the checking. This is why you pick up your phone even when you have no specific reason to. The checking itself is the behavior your brain has been trained into. Every time you check and find something, a message, a like, a piece of new content, the reward system is reinforced. Every time you check and find nothing, the unpredictability itself maintains the compulsion. You cannot win. The system is designed so that you cannot win. And the more you use it, the more efficiently your brain gets at running this loop. This is neuroplasticity. The brain's extraordinary capacity to reorganize itself in response to repeated experience. Neuroplasticity is the mechanism behind learning, behind memory, behind recovery from injury. It is one of the most remarkable properties of the human brain, and it works in both directions. The brain optimizes for what you do repeatedly, whether that serves you or not. Researchers at the University of California have found structural changes in the brains of heavy smartphone users, specifically reductions in gray matter density in the prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for impulse control, decision-making, planning, and the regulation of attention. The region that makes you capable of choosing to do the difficult, meaningful thing instead of the easy, immediately rewarding one. The region that, in many ways, makes you most recognizably human. Gray matter reduction in the prefrontal cortex is not a minor finding. It is the same pattern seen in the brains of people with substance addiction. Your brain, with enough repetition, begins to treat the compulsive phone-checking loop the same way it would treat any other addictive behavior. And as the prefrontal cortex loses density, its ability to override the dopamine-driven urge to check weakens further. The system becomes self-reinforcing. The more you are pulled in, the less biological capacity you have to resist being pulled in. But there is a second mechanism that is, if anything, even more alarming. Your brain evolved in an environment of sustained, uninterrupted attention. For most of human history, the activities that mattered, hunting, foraging, making tools, building social relationships, navigating terrain, required the ability to hold focus for extended periods of time. The human brain developed extraordinary capacity for what psychologists call deep work, the state of sustained, undistracted cognitive engagement that produces insight, creativity, learning, and genuine understanding. Smartphones have declared war on this capacity. Gloria Mark, a professor at the University of California, Irvine, who has spent 2 decades studying attention and distraction, found that after a phone interruption, it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully return to a state of deep cognitive focus. 23 minutes. If you are interrupted, or if you interrupt yourself, which is far more common, every time you feel the pull to check your phone, you are not losing seconds of focus. You are losing chunks of time measured in tens of minutes. And if you are checking your phone many times a day, you may be spending almost no time in a genuine state of deep focus at all. Mark's more recent research found something even more concerning. The average attention span before distraction has been shrinking. In 2004, it was around 2.5 minutes. By 2012, it had dropped to around 75 seconds. Her most recent data, collected in the age of smartphones, suggests it has dropped to around 47 seconds. Your brain's ability to sustain attention before seeking stimulation has been cut nearly in half in 2 decades. And this is not just a productivity problem. The ability to sustain deep attention is not separate from intelligence, creativity, and emotional depth. It is the substrate they run on. What you can think about, what you can feel, what you can create. All of it depends on the ability to hold your focus long enough for the deeper processes of your mind to operate. Shallowing your attention is shallowing your mind. There is a third mechanism that almost nobody talks about: the social brain. Humans are the most socially complex species on Earth. Your brain devotes enormous resources to reading other people, their faces, their voices, their body language, the subtle shifts of emotion that move across a face in fractions of a second. This social processing is not a peripheral feature of human cognition. It is central to it. And it is exquisitely calibrated for in-person interaction, for the full bandwidth experience of being physically present with another human being. When you substitute in-person social interaction with phone-mediated interaction, you are feeding your social brain a reduced signal. Text contains almost none of the emotional bandwidth of face-to-face conversation. Even video calls strip away the spatial presence, the synchronization of movement, the full physiological experience of genuine proximity. The social brain accepts this reduced signal, but it does not thrive on it. Research by John Twenge at San Diego State University tracked the mental health of American adolescents across 2 decades and found a sharp inflection point around 2012, the year smartphone ownership became widespread among teenagers. Rates of depression, anxiety, loneliness, and feelings of social isolation climbed sharply and have not come down. The generation that grew up most connected digitally has turned out to be the loneliest and most anxious in recorded history. The brain needs real social connection the way it needs food. Simulated connection, the scroll of other people's lives, the accumulation of likes, the performance of self on social media, does not satisfy the same need. It mimics the form of social interaction while hollowing out its content. And a brain that is chronically socially undernourished, one that is surrounded by social signal but deprived of real social experience, responds the way it responds to any form of deprivation, with distress. So what do you do? The research points toward a few things that actually work. The first is distance. Studies by Adrian Ward at the University of Texas found that the mere presence of a smartphone on a desk, even face down, even silent, reduces available cognitive capacity in the person sitting beside it. The phone does not have to be in your hand to divide your attention. Its proximity alone is enough. Putting your phone in another room during focused work does not just reduce interruptions. It measurably increases cognitive performance. The second is protected time. The brain's dopamine system can be recalibrated. It is not permanently rewired. Neuroplasticity works in the direction of recovery as much as it works in the direction of damage. But recovery requires time spent away from the trigger. Sustained periods, not minutes, but hours and eventually days, without the compulsive checking loop allow the prefrontal cortex to regain regulatory strength. The urge diminishes. The attention span lengthens. The capacity for genuine social connection deepens. The third is replacement. The pull of your phone is strongest in the gaps. The moments of boredom, waiting, discomfort, that used to be filled with nothing and now get filled with checking. If you can replace the phone in those moments with something that engages the brain differently, a conversation, a physical activity, even just sitting with your own thoughts, you interrupt the loop at its most vulnerable point. Your brain built itself to understand fire, to read faces across a campfire, to hold a thought long enough to turn it into a tool or a shelter or a story. It built itself over millions of years in an environment of slowness, of depth, of genuine presence. It has been given a smartphone, and it is doing its best. The question is whether you are going to let it keep adapting, deeper and deeper into a loop it cannot escape, or whether you are going to use the one thing that makes you different from every other animal on Earth and actually make a choice. The phone is in your hand right now. You know what it is doing. The only question left is what you are going to do about it.